you can really cut through all the weeds just by focusing what your passion is. Like, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And I think from the Hollywood lens, what's really interesting, what I've seen is there's so much disruption at the moment. The day you start learning is the day you die.
Welcome to another Million Miles, your personal lifestyle concierge with credibility. I'm Danielle Keasling, and in each episode, I connect you with unparalleled access to authentic, credible voices from across the entire world of beauty, wellness, fashion, travel, and mindset. Okay, friends, so gosh, another million miles of another million reasons to just like reach out to amazing and incredible people. So I'm here today with a gentleman who really, honestly, had me at auctioneering houses in Australia to moving to Los Angeles and getting into the film business. And I can't wait to dive deeper into this story because I think most people right now in this day and age are really understanding the social climate and the way that they have to pivot and just like learn new things. Some of the points that really stand out to me about this gentleman, James, is that he just jumped into Hollywood. He definitely has an entrepreneurial mindset. There's just a few little nuggets in there, which are real estate auctioning and crypto. Those of you who listen to this podcast and follow me on my blog always know that I'm super open-minded and super into just learning new things every day to make your life easier and more optimized. So without further ado, this is a award-winning actor and has an actual film coming out with Edward Norton, which I can't even wrap my head around yet until we chat. So thank you so much, James, for coming on this podcast.
Oh, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm super heavy into the business side of Hollywood, but I don't really get to like talk about, I'm always in the beauty side of it. I'm always like the hair, the makeup, the like art direction on how to make you all look really good on camera, but I don't get to like really dive into like how you got here. And like, it's fascinating to me. First of all, how long have you been in Hollywood?
So I guess I'll kind of like sum it up with I finished high school in Australia. Straight out of high school, I studied acting and real estate. And then I finished acting. I loved it. But real estate's a bigger industry in Australia. So kind of went more into real estate and then hit a point with the real estate auctioneering where I loved it. But I was I wanted to go back to that sort of creative side. So right before COVID, moved to LA, and then COVID hit. There's been a couple of milestones, some great movies and some great roles, but I kind of timed it beautifully because you had the SAG strike in 2023, you had COVID. So those two sort of milestones really I guess you could say, like tested your character as well, because they kind of shut the industry down for 9 months to, COVID was, even 2 years. So.
Okay, so you had this auctioneering business in Australia. So tell me about that a little bit.
One day I was looking for a job, very young, didn't want to work at this place, joined this real estate office based purely on the fact that, I needed a job, pretty much straight out of high school. And then the first day of work, they said, hey, we're entering everyone in the office, in this real estate office, into like an auctioneer competition, which is, in the US, it's less common to auction houses. In Australia, Europe, UK, there's a lot more auctions. Long story short, I entered this competition not wanting to do it. But when when it's like your first day on the job, you kind of tend to try and stay for another day. So I did it. And then I ended up actually winning that. And then I won a couple other competitions and kind of was runner up in the state. And the irony of the situation is I didn't want to do it which meant when I did the auctions, I looked very authentic. I wasn't trying to put something on, and that sort of seemed to work in my favor. So it was this. I fell into the real estate auctions by literally for like, every time not really wanting to do it. And then people thought, wow, he's so genuine, and
Yeah.
it's a nice style to have. So, yeah.
That's so interesting. So then what made you move to Hollywood?
I think, the interesting thing is I kind of hit a point where, I am very ambitious, and I was looking for that next step. I mean, there'd been a couple of things that had come up. Like, I was on a TV show in America. I was actually on one or two TV shows selling auctions, like houses, similar to Million Dollar Listing. And I sort of got a bit of a taste for it, remembering at acting school. And then I basically, long story short, was, this is the next part of my life. This is the next part of self-growth. And yeah, right before I left as well, I made a feature film, which is very much like Dumb and Dumber. It's called Malibu Crush. If anyone watches it, it was
Yeah.
made on like no money, and it was about two guys who live in Pasadena in Los Angeles that
Okay.
go to Sydney, Australia, to find this ex-girlfriend that one of them once dated in high school for 2 weeks, and the Dumb and Dumber side comes out because they both believe, even though it's been like 8 years, that yes, she's still in love with you. She's going to marry you, and it's this very situational comedy, very very similar to Dumb and Dumber,
Okay.
sort of humor. There's a lot of people in the media that are famous for doing nothing, and yeah, like that did really well in the States. Anyone that loves drama was like, this is not my kind of film. Anyone that was looking for like the Shawshank Redemption was like, yes, this is not something I'd recommend. But there seemed to be a big audience with the comedy side, where people just love that sort of, humor, relationship humor, but not think too much about it. So that really opened up some doors. And yeah, like, so things have been going well since, but it was just taking that leap as well. We're not playing it safe and feeling like, the same place, the same office, the same lifestyle. That's not my personality.
Yeah. So, but like Hollywood's really intimidating. What, like, no one just moves to LA and decides to like become an actor. Like what happened? What was that story?
I'll sum it up. I didn't intend for it to be like this, but this is where I sort of do think I've been very lucky, because I've had to experience a life in Australia, which feels like 4 or 5 lifetimes, like, surfing at the beach growing up, and then working in real estate, which, it went well. Like, I worked with, some of the top agents around the world, like top 1% agents. So when you say swimming with sharks, I think I got used to swimming with sharks in real estate. Coming to LA, it was a bit, it gives you a little bit of confidence, because you're saying, hey, I've swum with sharks, what I'd like to think in the best of it in real estate.
Yeah.
So I can sort of sense how to swim with sharks in Hollywood, because I find it fascinating, the business model in Hollywood. Because just to sort of sum it up from like quite like a serious conversation, but you have, LA is like no other place in the world. Like, the currency is built on dreams.
Yeah.
If you're in the East Coast, for example, in New York, going to an Ivy League education, working on Wall Street, you put in 80 hours a week in your 20s, you will get something in your 30s, just because it's repetition and you're doing something. In LA, it's like, you've got people that are, 65 years old, 80 years old, trying to be actors. You've got people that have quit their job as lawyers, and it's all based on hopes and dreams. It's
Yeah.
not based on like, you're a doctor, you went to school for 7 years, you passed your exams, you will get employed. Which I think, in the one hand, is very inspiring, but I think on the other hand, it's something to be careful about as well, because people are desperate. People will do, say, be whatever they have to be, to chase something which, it's non-tangible when you arrive. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that's interesting. So like does that intimidate you or does it drive you? With over 26 years of real life experiences as a thriving entrepreneur, I'm here to bring you sophistication, insight, and expertise into every aspect of your life. This is Another Million Miles, where luxury meets authenticity and every step brings you closer to the life that you deserve.
I think I actually really like it because I think I like when I came to LA, I was old enough to realize like maybe I wasn't as green. I'd had these lifetimes back in Australia. And that's not to say I was really old when I came, but it was just more, I felt like I'd experienced a different world and I could bring what I'd learned from that. Uh, but I enjoy the competitive side because I feel like I'm growing. That's the thing. Yeah. Like you give me like smooth, flat water, like a lake, I'm bored. You give me choppy seas and I feel like I'm growing.
I can relate to that way too much.
Yeah. Because you feel it, don't you? You feel it, don't you, when you're stuck, like when you're hitting your head against the scene, you feel it, and it's worse than being on a, let's say, turbulence or choppy. It's worse than that because you're not
Oh
doing
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, like it's comfort is boring.
Right, right.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of sayings, like the day you stop learning is the day you die, or all those I guess you could say words of advice.
So tell me a little bit about like what's next and like what's coming up for you. I mean, okay, first of all, I know you have some movie with Edward Norton, which oddly you resemble
I've
very
heard that
much
before.
so.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
So give me a little perspective into that.
So the film you're talking about is called Longevity Hackers, and it's great timing talking to you because it's actually playing at the Beverly Hills Film Festival like this week. We had the
Cool.
opening night last night at the Chinese Theater, which was very exciting. So there's that. That's the one you're alluding to, Longevity Hackers, and then there's a couple of other projects that are either in post production, just about to start, or look out for them. Another one's called Wingman, which is a throwback comedy with Kayla Wallace, who's on Landman, Paramount's number one show. So she's the actress with Billy Bob, and it's directed by Harlan Williams, Jamie Kennedy. So that's comedy called Wingman. Longevity Hackers is Ed Norton, and there's been a couple other films I've just finished as an actor called Vanished, Texas Nightmare, and another one called One Guy Too Many Dates, which is as the title would suggest. Yeah. So
Tell me
not
about
even
that. Tell me about One Guy Too Many Dates.
well. It's a rom com, and the title sums up everything you need to know. One guy
Yeah,
too many dates. Yeah, with a
that
nice yeah.
that kind of sounds like today's society right now.
Very LA, right? Very LA.
So LA.
Yeah,
Well, so just like honestly, so everywhere. I don't even know if it's just LA. It's just it's life right now.
it is. Yeah. Well, I feel like the interesting thing too about life imitates art as well. But I think if people were watching the sort of movies like 10, 20 years ago that are being right now, they'd be like, oh, that's crazy. Like, like what world is this? But, a lot of it's imitating the world we live in at the moment. So you can see how far things have changed, just in the last 5 or 10 years.
Oh, extraordinary. I think the world has changed so much in the last, I would say 5 years. I think 10 years was kind of that pivotal moment where we started seeing a lot of change, but the last 5 years has been like just crazy change.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. Because I think, too, the interesting thing that you can see it as an opportunity or you can see it as something that can kind of slow you down. And I say that because, I mean, I remember when I was in LA earlier, it's like, 5, 6 years ago, it was like gas prices were lower, less homeless. It seemed like there was a little bit more to it, like there was a lot more upbeat. Um, but at the same time, it's like, you need to be the person that's championing positivity and really cutting through that because there'll be so many people that'll slow down a bit because it's not like it was before, and it's your opportunity to go forward.
Yeah. No, 110%. So are you happy in LA? Are you looking to branch out into other parts of the world? Like, what's your next 3 years look like?
I love LA. Yeah, I love it. But it's funny because some people either love or hate it. Like, but I think part of it's just the learning journey that I'm on because growing up in Australia, it's extremely beautiful. Middle class is very achievable. Healthcare is free. There's a sense of it's a very good place to live, quality of life. However, the trade off with that is it's less ambitious because people don't need to push as hard. I think what I really enjoy about LA is that there's the world's your oyster, and if you're prepared to work hard and do the right thing, like opportunities really do present themselves. But it's probably more a work mindset that I see the lens at the moment.
Work mindset. So let's talk about that because I think that that's something that interestingly gets brought up a lot. What are you seeing in the workplace and work, like in just the mental state of people right now? Like, are you seeing them grinding? Are you seeing them chill? Are you like, what's that climate feel like for you?
Well, it's interesting because I was doing an interview recently with the film, and someone asked me like, how does someone like Edward Norton get 4 Academy Awards or nominations? Sorry, and what is different about someone like that as opposed to all the other people that don't make it? And I think like the one of the real things people forget is like humans always take the path of least resistance. It's just like it's a by default, like it's the fastest way to get somewhere in the road. It's the least amount of effort often. And I think if you want to do like really good things, like you kind of have to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, meaning like perhaps work harder later, maybe not get the sleep. um, and I think from the Hollywood lens, what's really interesting, what I've seen is there's so much disruption at the moment.
Welcome to another Million Miles, your personal lifestyle concierge with credibility. Here we go beyond surface level advice. We dive deep into transformational insights from experts who set the standard in their fields.
I mean, you have this slice of the pie, let's say, of the money. It used to be, you had cinemas, and then you had the networks and the studios, and then you had the audience. Now you have streamers come in and they're trying to take a piece of the pie. And all of a sudden you have influencers now instead of actors coming in, and you have vertical shorts, which is, very much driven from over in Asia, which is TV shows, 1 minute each, shot like iPhone, portrait mode. That's a version of a TV show which costs, 1/1000th of the cost of a network, sitcom, for example. You have all these disruptors coming in, and I think the mindset is I think some people don't want to change, so they're like stuck in their box. I
Yeah.
think other people are looking for the path of least resistance. And as
Yeah.
an example, some people are like, hey, I'm an influencer. I don't want to even go to acting school, but put me on your TV show or your film. Um, and then you have other people that I think they're kind of lost in between. Like they're wanting to be famous, but they're not wanting to be necessarily an influencer. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I think there's a lot more slice of the pie trying to sort of take up, let's just say Hollywood at the moment. But if you have a passion, like if you're a writer, a director, a producer, and that's what you want to do, like you can really cut through all the weeds just by focusing what your passion is.
How does someone do that? Like when, I mean, like if they cut through that, and they really niche down, where does that direct them next?
Well, I think, and it's a really good question. It's a really good question because I would sum it up like this. I think if you have something tangible, then you can always fall back on it. As an example, and I don't want to name drop because I'll sound like one of those Hollywood losers that name drops in the first 30 seconds. But
We're not judgmental on this podcast, by the way.
I'll sort of sum it up a bit. There's a lot of people in the media that are famous for doing nothing. But the thing is that dare I say it, they come from wealthy families, and it's very pay to play, meaning you pay a publicist this much per month, you buy this in Vogue magazine, you buy this cover, you buy the GQ cover, and you're relevant so long as you're buying stuff.
Okay.
But the moment, let's just say hypothetically, the tech gets turned off, like you're not really kind of like, you don't have anything tangible in your hand.
Yeah.
And that's when, to answer your question, I think if you want to be a singer, start stacking up the albums. If you want to be an actor, like start stacking up the credits, because the fame is always going to be there. Like you can hire a publicist anytime. It's easy to get on red carpets in LA. But let's say you go through tough times and you can't afford a publicist, you can still fall back on your craft.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you hypothetically, you don't want to be coming to LA, and I'll just cliche, you coming to LA at 27 years old, and you pay to be famous. You don't want to be paying to be famous for 60 years. Like you want to have something you can say, hey, at some point, if I put out a record, if I put out a movie, if I write a movie, the fame will take care of itself. Not the other way around, where I want to be famous first, and then it's like a hamster wheel, because you're competing with, in LA, you're competing with families that have billions of dollars that, sure, like their daughter wants to be famous. They can do that for 50 years. But, not everyone can afford, a $5 million Condé Nast, marketing fee each year.
No, that's actually so interesting you say that, because I work with a lot of brands and on both sides. And I think what I have personally seen with the climate change is that the credibility has to be there now. Like everybody could either pay for publicists, or they could become social media famous, TikTok famous, Instagram famous, whatever it was. And now it seems like the world's kind of coming back to like, well, yeah, but what kind of credibility do you actually have?
Exactly. And I think that's a real indication too of when I would see it in the film side, like when I'm working behind the scenes as an EP or a director, it's like someone would be put fast in casting, and, their agents say, oh, and they've got 10 million YouTube fans. So they got, 15 million Instagram fans, but they're all bought fans. And you're like, it's a hard, like you said, there has to be something there. Like if you're a professional, professional basketball player, like you build up an audience because you're a professional basketball player. But if you're just someone that, has bought 10 million Instagram followers, it's very hard to then quantify like what use that is to a film studio.
It's nice to know though, that I think that that's the way that the world is going back to, because I think that it got so out of control and I mean, I don't blame anybody that like really sat down during COVID and said, how can I capitalize on this, and what can I do, and how can I grow my Instagram or my TikTok or my social media to like really like stay home and work. But at the end of the day, you have people like yourself and myself and many people that I know and have relationships with that have like really, they've grown. It's like an athlete. Like that's a perfect example. Like you can't fake being an athlete. Like,
right.
You have to put the work in, because like if you don't put the work in, there's no like smoke and mirrors in athletics, right? So unless you're just like an Instagram athlete, but like
Right.
If you're competing in the Olympics or you're competing on a sports team, you have like, there is just no, like, you just can't fake it, right? But with so many other situations, it's like, it's interesting because it's just like you can cut and edit. You can sit behind your camera in your house and you can do unboxings and be an influencer. And even with like, I don't know if you ever knew about Quibi, but that was like
just before its time. I feel sorry for those investors because I
was very close to that project, by the way. I knew the gentleman that I actually dated at the time was like Jeffrey Katzenberg's advisor. And so during COVID, there was many meetings and conversations, and like me watching those short film, episodes that were part of like the celebrities in the Hollywood that like tried to make Quibi what I think he tried to dream it to be. But I just think, to your point, it was before its time.
Yeah, I mean, and that was huge money. Like that was over $1 billion, I think, invested in that. And I kind of feel like TikTok and just the way that, YouTube Shorts and the way that, that audience now has got used to just short form, which is kind of what I mentioned with the verticals, which we call it here in Hollywood, like, vertical TV shows, 1 minute each, 60 episodes. The distributors, outlets like, short, real shorts and those sort of, let's just say mini versions of Netflix that put out these, but they're all just to watch on your phone on portrait mode, less than a minute. It's very interesting.
So in your perspective, like in what you like, do you like that, or do you like to sit down and like watch a movie?
I'm in that generation where I kind of experienced a bit before and then the crossover as well. I think I love the old school movies. Like I love a movie like Dances with Wolves, the original Point Break, Catherine Bigelow directed. Like films where let's say you're having a good day or a bad day, they kind of take you out of your day for 2 hours, an hour and a half, and then when you leave the cinema, you're like, back to reality. It's an experience. I miss that. Yeah, I miss that. And I understand too, though, that you've got to adapt as a new audience comes in. And I completely get it, because when I grew up, it was like, Friends was kind of just finishing. Like that was a show where it was beyond, and they'd have 3 TV commercials as you waited to watch half an hour. Try doing that with today's audience, getting them to watch, 3 commercials every half an hour that go for 3 minutes. It's like the way that people consume content now, it's like they're on YouTube watching a video while they comment on Instagram, while they're ordering something, while they're listening to music, and then their friends texting them on their phone at the same time.
It's so true.
Yeah, and they can't just sit and watch. Like, and that's why I respect it too, because they've grown up where they're multitasking, whereas, I guess
is it productive?
That's a good way of looking at it, because it also looking at all those terrible TV shows and movies when I was younger, that growing up, that I had to sit through for like an hour and a half at a time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting climate. I'm wait to see what's next. I feel like something's gonna just like blow us all out of the water, and
Right.
as far as like, what would your prediction be?
For the film industry in 2 years?
For the film industry, and for like our social climate, and like how people consume media, and like what in 2 years, what's it going to look like?
That's a great question. I think probably more like algorithm based, meaning, for example, what's on your phone will be kind of what shows up as a recommendation now is kind of what's happening. But I think more that data where it's like, people are going to start making movies through TikTok, for example.
Oh.
And TikTok have extended their actual like length from just being like 1 minute or a couple of minutes to now, you could technically put full TV shows on. But I think it'll be more, okay, like I'm watching a TV show, whether it be a 1 minute short or something more, on my iPhone. I think the small screen has kind of taken away the big screen a little bit too much, meaning the cinemas not getting the love that it used to get, because people are like, hey, like, I don't know, I've got 2 kids and I don't want to fight traffic, and popcorn's going to be this much. You know what? I'll just stay at home and watch this Marvel on my surround sound Blu-ray. Oh, not Blu-ray, but surround sound. So it's that path of least resistance that's kind of kicked in. And I think COVID really jump-started that, because people did it once, twice, binge watched on Netflix, and were like, I'm kind of hooked now.
What's your favorite show right now?
Right now? It's kind of an old school show, The Office, because it's their 20th birthday. I kind of got hooked on cable because it's kind of showing these reruns to celebrate its 20th birthday. So
That's cool.
Yeah. How about you?
I'm super into The White Lotus right now.
It's really well shot. Really,
it's
Yeah.
just so interesting. And because I think I travel like so much for my work, it's like fascinating to me. I'm like, yeah, I actually see shit like this.
Right. Who's your favorite character on it?
This is Another Million Miles, where luxury meets authenticity and every step brings you closer to the life that you deserve.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really have a favorite character, to be honest with you. I don't actually relate to any of them.
Okay.
Um, yeah, no, I actually don't relate to any of them. I think that it's just a very interesting dynamic because I think that they really did a great job into creating stories within people's like real world that actually you can relate to each individual story in a different way, even though it might not directly relate to you. Like you just, someone in your like circles have a similar situation happening. So I think that it was just well written.
Yeah, it's really well done. Like I really enjoy. Yeah, the characters are quite layered, but also the cinematographers deserve, and the gaffer definitely deserves like quite a bit of credit because they shoot it, which I think is quite stunning for a TV show, which looks like they shoot it fairly fast as well.
Yeah.
Taking advantages of the great locations.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I've been to Palermo, so I just finished season 2. I'm on season 3 now. And
Nice.
I'm like, I don't remember Sicily looking like that. So I do know that the way that they're producing it is beautiful.
Yeah, the color grade they put on really makes it pop. I think some people might be burnt. Some people might be like, "Hey, I'm going to visit this location, looking for the exact same," but they may be
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, no, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, oh my gosh, did you know like Sicily's tourism has gone up X, Y, and Z? And I was like, well, I've been to Sicily and I would have never guessed if I didn't like actually dive into like where it was shot. I would never have assumed that it was Sicily. So
Right, right.
yeah, I think Thailand can in Hawaii, like that kind of speaks for itself. But I was a little, yeah, Palermo and Sicily was kind of a surprise.
That's Hollywood.
Yep, yep.
That's definitely Hollywood.
So if you could leave anyone with any advice today, right now, after our conversation, in regards to like taking the next step, what would it be?
I would say like the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So don't look at it as like a risk as far as, making, let's just say getting out of your comfort zone. Because
Yeah.
I think it's like stretching, like you only get out what you put in. And so, yeah, if you're wanting like a small result, then do like a small task. And if you're wanting a big result, then take a big leap. Yeah. And also remember though, like the knives always get sharpest, the better you're doing. So it's probably a good thing if you're starting to get, let's just say like you're starting to get like a few sharp knives from your competition or, competitors. That's a sign you're on the right track.
I think that's fantastic. That's really really great advice. I can 100% agree with that. Well, and then on top of it, like what is the scariest thing I think you've ever done?
Wow, that's putting me on the spot. The scariest thing. I mean, I've had a couple of near-death experiences, swimming with sharks. I think there's a few. There's a few that have been there. But the irony is like I always find like when something big happens, especially like I said, bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. It's kind of like what is it? It's like darkest before the dawn, or like the biggest obstacle. There's always the biggest triumph. It's like whenever you go through something that's a big shock. There's always a big sort of return or a big drop off, and you're trying to get your life back on track. There's always a big jump. So it's a really interesting question you ask because it's like it's not a nice thing to go through these things, but there is always light coming.
Oh, I agree with you. Thank you. Thank you for being so open and like very, very vulnerable and just very inspiring. I mean, you have taken your life from such a extreme and something so different, and it's really cool to like talk to people and like meet people and hear people's stories that can pivot like that. So I think that it's been a great conversation.
Well, I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you having me on your show as well. So we'll wait for the next Quibi to get in. The next Quibi to get in and invest in that.
Hey, hit me up. I was all for it. There was so many things that I was like, this just isn't the time. And that's exactly what it was. It was just before its time. So, Jeffrey's a good guy, and, hopefully he's doing well. And, anyways.
Well, we'll wait and see.
Again, James, thank you so much. I definitely know that people listening to this, I've got all types of audience, everything from entrepreneurs to people trying to look for inspiration and lifestyle and living and optimizing and balancing, and then just taking that second life leap. And I think that you kind of summed everything up in that second life leap. So I appreciate you so much. I know that the listeners appreciate you so much. And if there's any final words you'd like to say.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So how do we follow you? How does everyone get in touch with you?
Instagram, just James_Pratt7. Same thing for Twitter. I believe it's James Pratt Official on LinkedIn, and I think for anyone in the film industry, I'm on IMDb. So my agent, my company details are on there as well. But yeah, hit me up. Any questions, any way I can support, love to help.
And how about all of the movie releases and the film stuff that you're doing?
I would say Longevity Hackers, check that out, Apple TV. 3 Killer Pigs is coming up. That's a movie, Brian Austin Green. Another movie is coming up, which is One Guy Too Many Dates. That's sometime this year. And then there's another movie coming up, which is Vanished. Jared Cohen, he's the director. You've drawn me a blank. There's one more film there. Wingman. Check out Wingman. Yeah.
Hey, you have a lot going on. That's amazing. And I don't know how you balance it all, but I'm all for it. I'm going to check out all of those. Definitely the One Guy Too Many Dates. I think most of us can relate to that. And
yeah, very LA. Anyone who wants to
very LA. No. Well, thank you again so much, James, and we look forward maybe to crossing paths again.
I hope to, and thank you very much for having me again.
Absolutely. So those of you guys who are listening to this, again, check out James, follow him, like him, check out all of his movies, all of his projects that he's doing. It sounds like they're going to be really, really fun and interesting. And again, thank you for listening to Another Million Miles. Live your best life, do everything you want to do, and network and ask questions. So again, thank you, and we will see you on the next Another Million Miles.
Thank you for joining me on Another Million Miles, where luxury and authenticity meet to enrich your journey. This is Another Million Miles, and I'll see you on the path ahead in our next episode. Until then, keep embracing the journey, savoring each moment, keep dreaming big and moving closer to the life you envisioned, and traveling afar.